talk about an adjective clause. Hi, my name is Sania. This video is made to fulfill the task in grammar analysis. And today, we're going to talk about noun clause and adjective clause. Let's start with noun clause. As it names, it acts as a noun, but it can serve as subject, object, subject complement, or even a positive in the sentence. So noun clause in here as dependent clause. And I provide you some of the examples of the noun clause in here. The first one is as subject, the second one as object of the verb, the third one subject complement, and the oppositive. In here, as you can see the detail, noun clause can answer the question about what or who about the verb. And then noun clause often begins with WH words. What, who, where, when, why, how, that, or if, or even whether. As the example, let's talk about one example first. What she said surprised everyone. This noun clause acts as a subject. As the thing that you need to underline in here is the example has bold words over there. So let's pay attention to those bold words because on that sentence, the bold words acts as the noun clause over there. So the first example is what she said surprised everyone. The noun clause over there is what she said, that's the subject of the sentence. And then as a subject, that thing is surprise everyone. And then we're going to the second example. I don't know where he lives. So the noun clause over there is where he lives. And then that noun clause is actually answering the question about where, about what is the thing that he doesn't know. So that's the point of the noun clause. And the example of number 2 acts as object of the verb know. And then the third one is the problem is that we have no time. The noun clause on that sentence is that we have no time. That noun clause explain the subject, which is having the answer of what is the thing that as the problem. The problem is that we have no time. So as what I said in the beginning, noun clause can answer the question about what or who related to the verb. Now let's analyze. I have these sentences in here. Both of them are noun clause, but we're going to try to find out what is the function of that kind of noun clause, what kind of the thing that noun clause is emphasizing on that kind of sentence. The first one is, I know that he is honest. The second one is, what she said was true. The first one, the noun clause is that he is honest. Let's just pay attention to the words that I changed the color into pink. The word that he is honest explain more about what I know. So that kind of noun clause acts as the object of the thing. The second one is what she said was true. That noun clause is emphasizing the subject in the sentence because that kind of sentence, that noun clause is emphasizing the subject about what is true. Oh, what she said was true. That's the point. Now let's go to adjective clause. Before we were talking about noun clause, our point was talking about noun, but now we're going to talk about adjective, which is in a clause. This one is also a dependent clause, and adjective clause usually describes a noun. As you can see in here, I provide some examples of the adjective clause. The first one is the teacher who teaches English is kind. The book that I borrowed was interesting as the second one. And the last one is the place where we met is closed now. As I try to understand adjective clause, I realize a pattern in here. Adjective clause usually stay next to the noun because As before, as I said, it describes a noun. Adjective clause has the function as adjective, which is describing a noun. And as the first example, the teacher who teaches English is kind. The adjective clause over there is the thing that I bold. Who teaches English is kind. So the adjective clause which says who teaches English is something that describes more about the noun, which is the teacher. And then same as the second one, the book that I borrowed was interesting. The thing that they emphasize over there is the word the book, which is the book is also as a noun. And then the book describe more with the book that I borrowed. That's the adjective clause. And the last one, the place where we met, is close now. The adjective clause over there is where we met. And the thing that adjective clause is emphasizing is the word the place. That's why if you realize also the pattern over there, it usually begins with relative pronoun, which is talking about who or whom, talking about people, which, talking about things, the word that, talking about people or things, the word whose, talking about possession, the word where or when, talking about place or time. The more that I tried to understand about adjective clause, I found out adjective clause has two kind of types. The first one is defining or restrictive types. The second one is non-defining or restrictive types. And the explanation is having like something quite simple to understand. The existence of commas. If you see, the defining type has the example, the girl who is speaking is my sister, has no commas inside the sentence. And then the explanation over there is it is talking about essential information, identifies which girl, and no comma. And then talking about the non-defining or non-restrictive, it has like some commas over there. The example is my sister who is a doctor, lives in Bali. So it is talking about extra information over there, which is about my sister. And what is this extra information? Who is a doctor? That's actually the thing, which is sentence still makes sense without it, even though without that kind of adjective clause. And then as you can see, we can see some of the commas over there. Now we're coming to the key differences. In here, I provide like a table which will show what are the differences between the noun clause and adjective clause. And then let's start from the function. From the function, as clear as the name, noun clause acts as a noun, adjective clause acts as adjective. But the more explanation that to make this thing easier to compare is adjective clause usually describe more about the noun itself. And then talking about what it modifies, in noun clause, it modifies nothing. It acts as an element. And in adjective clause, as I said before, it modifies a noun. And then introduced by, it's usually start with the word that in noun clause. That, if, whether, WH word. And then adjective clause, if you find out sometimes it starts also the same as the noun clause. For example, it starts with the word who, whom, which, that, where, when, and who, and whose. And then the example in here, to make it more clear, the example of noun clause is I know that she is honest. In noun clause, it modifies nothing. It just acts as the elements. Over here, that she is honest is the noun clause and it acts as the object. And the example of the adjective clause in this kind of table is the girl who is honest is my friend. And then the adjective clause is the who is honest, which is explain more about the girl, emphasize more information about the girl. And that is the adjective clause. This is the end. Now, let's try to find out which one is the clause for the noun clause, which one is the adjective clause. I have two sentences over here. The first one is, I wonder whether he understood the lesson. And the second one is, the student who studies hard always improves. The easier way for me is trying to find out adjective clause first because I remember it easier. Adjective clause always modifies a noun. So in here, the second sentence is something uh, that makes me realize, oh, that's something that is modified by adjective clause, which is the student who studies hard always improve. And the adjective clause over there is who studies hard. And the thing that the adjective clause emphasized was the word the student. And of course, then the first sentence, which is I wondered whether he understood the lesson, is the sentence which has noun clause. And then the noun clause over there is whether he understood the lesson. And that will act as the object because that will explain what is the thing that speaker wondered. And the thing that the speaker wondered is whether he understood the lesson or not. So that's the thing. That's all about my video. Thank you for watching and have a good day. Hi, my name is Sania. This video is made to fulfill the